So Blizzard released the first information of the next World of Warcraft expansion, Dragonflight, on Tuesday. And over the past few days, a lot of interviews and a lot more information has come out about it. So I'm here today to kind of just do a big overview of everything that was revealed and everything that's coming, all the new features, and everything we know so far about World of Warcraft Dragonflight. Now, as a just kind of a general expansion overview, big how to train your dragon vibes in this expansion, which I really like. Really recommend you check out the cutscene, or not the cutscene, the cinematic that they made. I'll link it in the description below. It's actually super sick. There's a lot of like really cool scenes with dragons flying around, and there's Stony Boy, the Chiseled Watcher. I think it's like Watcher Kranos or something. It's really cool. Check it out. But some of those scenes really give me vibes of how to train dragons, which I'm a big fan of. And the story itself sees us coming back to this Dragon Isles. And the Dragon Isles, people don't know, is kind of the ancestral home of the dragons. I'm pretty sure it's where Tyr first turned the aspects into, the aspects. It's kind of been lost to try to miss. Wrathion has been looking for it for a while. So there's this basis of this kind of zones of this island that existed that was kind of hidden, that people didn't really know about. And the story that we know so far is more grounded, more centralized. We don't know the big bad villain yet, but there is going to be one that's been confirmed. But right now it looks like more smaller issues, like we're going there and we're fighting these like stone giants who fight against the dragons, and we're fighting against these primalists that are allies of Galakrond and that kind of thing. So the story itself is a lot more grounded, a lot less big and cosmic, and everybody loves dragons. Dragons are great. I've already opted into the beta. Would recommend doing this if you want a chance to play before things come out. Hopefully I get in, but I will be covering everything about Dragonflight as it comes out. So subscribe, stick around if you want to see that. A lot of my people who watch these videos aren't subscribed, and I'm trying to hit 300 subs by the end of May. So subscribe and like the video if you liked it, and let's dive into everything. So the first stuff is kind of just the story, right? I went over that, but the Dragonflights of Azeroth are coming back. Since Cataclysm, they've given up their powers. And this kind of led to this like lack of power within the dragons. They haven't been able to breed. They haven't been able to reproduce. They're kind of been dying off. But the Dragon Isles themselves, the beacon got relit, and they're kind of being called back home. And we're going there with them to try and kind of help solve these issues there. So as well with that, that's kind of just the story overview. That's all we know. We also get a new class. Now the new class itself is called the Drakthir Evoker. Now the thing with that is that it's a race and a class. The Drakthir being the race, the class being the evoker. But they are uniquely tied to each other. So Drakthir, which are these kind of draconid things down here, humanoid dragons, they can only be evokers, and evokers can only be Drakthir. Now, I think in the future, once Drakthir been out for longer, I could see Drakthir being able to be more classes. But I believe that evoker will always just be hardlocked to Drakthir, kind of like how Demon Hunter is hardlocked to not Night Fae. The two elves, really. Now, Drakthir are neutral, so they can be either faction, and there's a large array of customization with them, like this. And like you said here, choose your allegiance. They can be Horde or Alliance, and you can see just more of the customization here. They have a dragon form and a human form, much like Worgens do. And you can turn in between the two. Your dragon form can wear some ability, can wear some armor. Your human form wears the whole armor. And the class itself has two different specializations. So there is the Devastation, which is kind of your damaging abilities, which shows like a fire, so red and blue aspects, kind of like a fire and ice magic kind of thing. And the Preservation spec, which shows just kind of like life-giving magic, so the bronze and green Dragonflights. And you can kind of just see some of the stuff here. So you can see that their animations are really flashy and really cool, and they're really tied into the kind of them being dragons. So when you're when you're in an evoker, all of your combat happens in this dragon form. So you can see they're kind of throwing out abilities, they're kind of doing that, and then in their deep dive trailers, we see them kind of strafing the battlefield. We've seen them doing these big kind of wing buffets. So their animations and everything are tied really closely to being a dragon, and I know that's going to be really cool for a lot of people. Another thing that comes with Drakthir is a new kind of ability that is only for the Drakthir. As of the time of making this video, nobody else in the game is going to have these, but they're called empowered abilities. So empowered abilities are basically charge-based abilities. So the longer you charge up this ability, and we can see it here with Dream Breath and like the targeting reticle, kind of the different bars, the longer you charge this up or hold down the button, the more effects or added abilities get added to it. So in certain scenarios, you might hit more targets or deal more damage or whatever. Now, there is an option to change this to be a kind of toggle button, which might be useful instead of the charge, but this is kind of an accessibility thing. But this is kind of just to make you feel more, physically tied into your class and character as you're doing these kind of motions or going through the battlefield. Dracula themselves are ranged. They wear mail, and there's, which is good. And they're meant kind of to exist from mid-range, where they're not in melee, but they're not really in full range either, because their breath attacks have like a minimum range to them. So it's interesting to see these kind of new things. Dracula Ring are a hero class, and they start at level 58, and will be available for the pre-patch, so 2 weeks before the expansion actually launches, which we don't know an expansion release date yet, but once we do, I'll cover it. And they have their own new starting zone within the island, where they kind of go on their little like own quest and own intro. Story-wise for the Drakthir, they are based off Nathalion, so pre-corruption Deathwing. He kind of made them as like dragon soldiers, combining the power of the dragon aspects as well as the power of the normal races of Azeroth. So they're kind of this unique blend of human and dragon that kind of makes them who they are. So aside from the Drakthir and the Evoker, both really cool. I'll be covering them when they come out. There's also the new thing called dragon riding. Now this is why I say how to train your dragon, because this is cool. So dragon riding is this new form of aerial movement within the Dragon Isles that sort of replaces flying, but not really. It's like a new form of flying, if you will. And with it, you get this little mount. So there's 4 kind of base dragons you can choose from. But these are highly customizable. And I think there's actually, from this, there's even more dragon choices you can make. But you get these 4 different dragons, and you basically can summon them, and you play this little mini game to help you kind of fly around and get from point A to point B. This replaces flying in the first patch, but there's been no mention of it replacing flying completely. So eventually you probably will be able to get full-on flying. But at the start with this, your ability to fly your dragon isn't going to be that great. You know, you won't be able to stay in the air for that long. You won't be able to go that fast. But, excuse me, as you work on it, your dragon does grow in strength. It's kind of a little skill tree kind of system, meaning you can fly for longer, fly for faster, and you just kind of get better at riding your dragon. Now, these dragons themselves are fully customizable. There's tons, it says, with millions of possible combinations to choose from. So there's going to be tons of different dragon customizations, and they show a bunch in the deep dive videos, which I really recommend you watch out. But it looks to be a really cool system. And then down here, it just kind of talks about it more. So you gain special moves with your Drake as you kind of grow higher. And there's a max level, you get like glyphs and stuff to advance your dragon riding skill tree and all that jazz. Here we go. And this is the actual dragon riding itself. So you can see they kind of dive down, and then speed picks up. They have little like trails from their wings as they go fast. It's like a mixture of gliding and flying themselves. So you can kind of like fly around, glide, dive down, pick up a bunch of speed. So you're going to kind of want to be like jumping off of high cliffs, summoning your Drake, flying around, swooping around. It looks sick. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of races, or at least if they're not like officially in the game races, like player versus player made PvP races where you kind of race your dragons around. I'm super excited to just have fun with this. With that, we have 4 new zones on the Dragon Isles themselves. Each of these zones is kind of themed around a different Dragonflight, more or less, with 1 or 2 Dragonflights being there. So the first one, the one that you get to like right as the expansion launches, is called the Waking Shores. This is kind of the red and black Dragonflight zone. And there's pictures at the bottom I'll go through. But on invitation by Alex Straza, you guys we arrive in this kind of vibrant, really hilly area. And where this dragon is flying right here is this zone. And there's huge mountains, there's huge caves, there's like volcanoes, there's a bunch of waterfalls, a bunch of life here and stuff. But this is where you kind of start the voyage, right? And this is also where the Black Dragonflight is. So Wrathgon will call upon your aid to kind of reclaim the Citadel from enemy hands. From here, you go to the Onharan Plains, which is a very wide open plain area. Kind of split into 2 biomes. There's a wide open grassland, which are made up of centaurs that we have to befriend. And then there's groves that are made up of the Green Dragonflight and Ysera and all of that. And because this zone is actually so big, all of these zones are massive. They've claimed this is the largest continent we've ever been to. They've actually increased the draw distance. So as you're flying around, things will pop up much further away. So it'll look much seamless as you kind of swoop on your dragon and see a bunch of all these cool things. The next zone is the Azure Span, which is kind of a 3-tiered zone. The lowlands are kind of a taiga forest, kind of like this, with redwoods and mist, and it's kind of based off Grizzly Hills mixed with the Bay Area. And then from there, you go up into a tundra with like golds and reds in your kind of like flat tundra area. And then at the top, and the largest part of the zone, is a frozen area with tons of snow, ice, waterfalls, and all that stuff. There are Tuskar villages here. Please, Blizzard, Tuskar allied race. There's a bunch of gnolls and furbolgs that make this place their home. And likewise, we're going to helping out Kalikos and the Blue Dragonflight to kind of learn more about Sindragos' library, which is featured here. Finally, the last of the main zones is Daldras. This is kind of the seat of power for all 5 of the aspects, all 5 of the Dragonflights, in their main city, which will be here. Likewise, this is also where the Bronze Dragonflights take their name. So this is kind of the Bronze as well as the major, like all cities together kind of thing. And the last thing here is Forbidden Reach, which is the starting zone for the Drakthir Evokers. So this is where they will be starting their kind of campaign from to level up and all that. With this, we're also getting a bunch of new things. One of them, and the most coolest in my opinion, is the talent trees are coming back. So they're getting rid of board power completely. Besides tier set and gear, there's no like legendaries, there's no conduits or anything like that, and they're putting it into the system. So the new talent trees look very different from what they used to. You have 2 talent trees. Your kind of like your class talent tree. So in this case, your druid talent tree, which has a lot of like basic abilities like Rejuve or Starfire or Star Surge and stuff like that, as well as a lot of utility and things that aren't necessarily like throughput increases. Like you'll find like Innervate or like Maim or like Barkskin or Cyclone, stuff like that here. And then you have your spec tree, which is all like your throughput increases and all that stuff. And your spec tree itself is more similar to kind of like the old talent trees, but mixed with kind of like legendary effects, conduits, talents from Mop onwards. So it's stuff that has much higher impact than the old talent trees, which I think is really good. So my biggest thing with my biggest worry with talent trees is that they go back to kind of, oh, I get a level up, I get a talent, but it makes my pet move 20% faster, or it makes my attacks hit 2% more often. You know, like talents that are very unimpactful. But with these talents are going to be much more impactful. So if we look at the Resto tree itself here, we can see that they get like Convoke the Spirits, they get Flourish. They get a bunch of cool effects that normally would be locked to like legendaries or game systems, but are now being put into this talent tree. And this is their goal, is to kind of cultivate these talent trees for a few expansions at least until it gets too messy, and then they'll work on that from there. But this is kind of a cool midway point, or a cool bouncing off point for the expansion. Now you get 31 points in the Druid tree and 30 in your Spec tree, and there are multiple different kind of icons here. So squares are active abilities, circles are passives, and some of these circles have multiple ranks in them, as you can see here. And then these little octagon things here are choices. So when you put a point in here, there's going to be a pop-up menu of 2 choices, and you pick one of those 2 benefits to get. Now, these things here are being removed, so don't worry about them, but they seem to be kind of things like, you put X amount of points into the tree, you unlock this ability, but that doesn't make a lot of sense. I imagine those would be put into like level up perks. Other important things are these down here, loadouts. So you can have multiple different loadouts for talents. Like you can make an M+ talent tree, a raid talent tree, a PvP talent tree, and in any rested zone or with any tome, you can freely swap between those loadouts to get your different talents very quickly. So I think that's really cool. I think the ability to kind of go into all this utility over here is super cool. Like you can see here, this is a resto, but they have Skull Bash, so a lot of healers can get kicks now, which is cool. PvP talent trees are staying the same, and War Mode is right down here. So I'm really excited for this, and they're releasing the rest of the talent trees before the expansion alpha comes out. So that should hopefully be in the next few weeks. When those come out, I will be covering as many of them as I can, because I'm really interested in this system. I really think talents are cool. Likewise, they're doing a full profession rework. I'm not going to dive too deep into this because I don't know a lot about professions, but these seem kind of cool. So kind of at max level here, optional reagents and reagents are normal, but they're adding a quality system. And this quality system kind of improves the eye level of the stuff you're crafting, or the effects of stuff you're crafting, and the quality gets better the more you craft. So the better you craft stuff. Crafting now has like a little talent tree, a little skill progression system where you get these. I don't want to say like They're like profession stats if you want. So resourcefulness and inspiration are like stats that directly affect your crafting, and they come from special profession gear, which goes in their own slots. These profession gears kind of act as a crafting kind of progression system, which I think is super sick. And you change into them when you start crafting. There's a whole deep dive of this on the website that I think is super cool, and I will be doing its own video when we know more about it. But it's really sick, and I really hope people check it out. And the last major feature is a UI overhaul. So they're going kind of more towards the Final Fantasy UI system, where in the game you kind of move everything around as much as you want. They're also redesigning the artwork, so you can see the griffins are redone. This is redone in the new mini-map. Now, they're not removing add-ons. I personally am going to stick with Elves UI and all my other add-ons. But the base UI is now super customizable. You can move any of these things around. You can move whatever you want anywhere. Like they have pictures of this down here. They have this over here, this over here. So it's very customizable, and it's fully unique to whatever you want now. And that's all within the base game, which I think is a really, really good addition. Likewise, we're going up to 70. The first new raid has also been teased more or less. So we're going into a prison of the primal incarnates, which are basically protodrakes that are massive, that are kind of upset that the dragon aspects became the dragon aspects, and these are kind of allied with Galakrond. So we're going in there, we're kind of stopping them. And they tell us a few new dungeons. So we have to reclaim Neltharius, which is the Black Dragonflight stronghold. New Uldaman chambers, which is really cool. And then we get to defend the life pools of the Red Dragonflight. So there's going to be 8 Dragonflight dungeons when the game releases. However, and this is going to be interesting. Season 1 will feature 4 of those Dragonflight dungeons in M+, and 4 old school dungeons in M+. So stuff from BFA and previous, kind of updated for this M+ system. And then Season 2 will feature the other 4 Dragonflight dungeons, and then 4 different M+ dungeons from previous expansions. So they're kind of doing this to kind of stop the burnout from all the new dungeons. And I think it's going to be interesting, because it also solves the issue of kind of having to grind out the same trinket multiple times in expansion. Like, I don't have to grind out my file of putrefaction for, 18 months in a row. So I look forward to seeing where this goes. Hopefully I get into the beta and can do some M+ of the new dungeons when we know them. So I think that'll be cool. And there's just a bunch of pictures of stuff. Really recommend you go through these if you want. And then beta opt-in, I'll link that down below. The last thing I want to cover is this here. So Blizzard has revealed the new tier sets, actually, for the new set, the new tier. So these are Primalist, is the Primalist raid tier. So you can kind of go through. I believe that these different colors are going to be the different, like LFR, Mythic, Normal, Heroic kind of tiers, tints. But they could be just kind of, these 3 get red and these 3 get gold. But we'll see about that. So, Evoker, Priest, Warlock, Demon Hunter, Monk, Paladin, Warrior, Rogue, Druid, Shaman, and then Death Knight, Mage, and Hunter. And I kind of like these ones. They're all kind of like Earth Elemental, Primal Elementalist, / Dragon a little bit. I think they're doing a good job of combining like class fantasy with raid fantasy like they did for the last tier with Sepulture. But I think these ones are super sick, and I hope that these kind of transition into the game as they are. So that's basically all the kind of big overview stuff of the expansion reveal. There's a lot of more smaller stuff and a bunch of different interviews that were made. But I'll be back with more videos as we know more information. I want to do a lot of coverage over Dragonflight. I'm super excited for this new expansion. So if you want to stay up to date with all the news as it comes out and all the new stuff that I'm able to test, consider subscribing. It really helps out. Like the video, show some support, and thank you guys for watching.